Oh, hello. Do you think that Big Brother is watching? Or that the Illuminati is planning to take over the world? Have you happened to have an encounter with a space alien today? Well, if the answer to those questions is yes, then grab your hat. This is tinfoil hat time. Welcome back to Switched to Linux. This is tinfoil hat time. So tinfoil hat time is my place to discuss interesting trends that I see in business and in the world. They may not all be related to tech, although a lot of them happen to be. So I am not a conspiracy theorist, and I kind of make light of the alien and the Illuminati and Big Brother and the tinfoil, obviously. But what the purpose of the series is to show that there are some things that we need to stop and question, and we need to stop and wonder what is going on. And it's highly, highly important that we do that. So to kick off the Tinfoil Hat Time series, I'm going to talk about why I'm switching to Linux. It was having to do with what Microsoft did inside of Windows 10. So I'm not anti-Microsoft. In fact, my relationship with the Windows platform is actually more like a person who has come home and found their spouse has been cheating on them for a long time. See, I was weaned on the Windows platform. My first real good computer was a Windows 95 computer, and I was absolutely impressed with the things that you could do on a computer system. And then I got into a Windows 98 computer. We had 2000 and Millennium. Okay, Millennium, yeah, that was bad. But we had all these operating systems, and then I moved into XP, and I'll tell you, XP was just amazing in the way Windows worked, and that was really the thing that solidified Microsoft as the leader in the desktop operations. And then they moved into Windows Vista, which actually wasn't as bad as people give it credit for. The problem is it was before its time, meaning that Windows Vista generally shipped on a computer that did not quite have the system resources available for it. If it had come out after the RAM hit 2 gigabytes typical and, gigahertz or whatever processor on dual core, Windows Vista would have been great. The problem you had with it is how poorly it was implemented with the available hardware at the time. For example, my first Windows Vista computer was a laptop with something like a 500 megahertz processor and half a gig of RAM, and you needed 1 gig of RAM minimum to run Windows Vista. So the thing never worked out of the box. It was horrible. But once you got Vista into a good computer with a decent amount of memory and a decent processor and got the upgrades and the patches in, it became a decent operating system. But most of what was Vista became Windows 7. And Windows 7 was just one more operating system that was just totally awesome in the field of Windows. And I gotta say, I love the Windows system. I've been on Windows since high school. I'm well out of college, well out of grad school, and changed careers a couple times since then. And I love the Windows platform. It's just the way it's productively set up, the way that it works. I found, audio editors and video editors when I was in high school, and I recorded some bad songs, and I typed up all my poetry on Word. I learned how to use Excel while I was working on college programs so that I could get good grades and work with it. And as Windows progressed, it just seemed to get better and better and better. And then Windows 10 happened. And with Windows 10, what really happened there the most is it was the privacy policy in the terms of conditions. So I read through the privacy policy, and you should always read the privacy policies that are being suggested to you. Read those policies. They are important. Okay? Inside that policy, it tells you about all the data that they're collecting. It tells you about the binding arbitration. It tells you all of this stuff that's actually quite scary. So there are 3 major reasons I will not use Windows 10. The first comes down to data collection. According to the newly revised policies in August of 2016, that accompanied the anniversary update, they collect name and contact data, credentials, demographic data, payment data, usage data, interests and favorites, contacts and relationships, location data, and content. Yes, they actually do collect the content of your files. For what purpose, we have to wonder, because they do tell you they don't use the content to sell you ads. Well, what else are they using it for? Makes you scratch your head or put on a hat. So we know that they're collecting data even about the basic uses, like things that don't have anything to do with anything super critically important. Like they know how many pictures you look at on your computer. They know how many minutes you spend on Edge, their integrated browser. They know what songs you listen to. They know what files are in your documents folders and in your music folders and in your image folders. Do they look at the actual images, the actual documents? I don't know. But what I do know is that at least they can see how many pictures you've seen, how many MP3s or whatever you've listened to. They collect a whole lot of data. And then this leads me to my second reason, is the integrated advertising into the system. Now, you can turn that stuff off. In fact, I think you can turn all of it off. When I first install Windows 10 computers, and I've done a few of them, I go through, I turn everything off, I get everything the way I like it, and I do not recall seeing ads after uninstalling Candy Crush 5 times. Come on, Microsoft, I don't want Candy Crush. But I do not need my operating system to pop up ads or notification ads. Like, notification goes on. Oh, this might be important. Get Office 365. No! If I wanted Office 365, it'd be on the computer. That's why I already uninstalled the Get Office 365 app on my Start menu and on my Live Tiles 17 bajillion times. You keep putting it back. I don't want it. You know, and that's the thing. If you let Windows do what Windows wants to do, you are going to have ads on your startup screen. You're going to have ads in your start menu, on your live tiles, on your notifications, and who knows, maybe giant pop-up ads. If they weren't bad enough on websites, we might actually start to see them on Windows computers. That would be kind of funny, wouldn't it? Oh, dear. Lots of crazy stuff. I don't want to be marketed to in that manner. Now, I do not mind ads at all. Not at all. But I do mind them when they're so targeted and when they're so intrusive. I do not need my operating system collecting that type of data about me. I just don't. Okay? Now, do not tell me that, oh, well, we have our phones and we do all these things. I use a phone differently than I use a desktop computer, and I think most people are. I don't use my phone to do personal, private data like balance my budgets or write personal letters or store my poetry collection. Okay, I just don't do that because I consider the phone a losable item, a breakable item, an item that somebody could pick up and walk off with. And I just don't do that level of stuff, and I don't think other people should either, and I don't even think people do that kind of stuff really on their phone. Correct me if I'm wrong. Sure, I get that you might check some bank accounts, and I definitely get checking your email and things like that, but there are things you do on your desktop operating system that you do not do on a phone, and that makes all the difference in the world. Because it's one thing if Apple collects data about my phone, it's another thing if Microsoft's collecting data about what's on my whole desktop computer. So, data collection, advertising, and the thing that for me really solidified that I did not want to use my Windows 10 is this data leaking problem. So, if you go in, of course, if you just click the Get Started Now, jump right into Windows 10, it turns all of these privacy settings on by default. So if you go into there, and of course all of the pro Microsoft guys are saying, oh, well, you can turn all this stuff off. No, you can't. Okay, you can't. If you go into the system and you turn every bit of that data collection off, and then you pull up TCP View, which is a program by Microsoft that shows you all the network connections the computer's making, it is still making tons of outward connections to the internet. Why? Why? So then people have identified all these different things, and you can grab giant lists of your host's file, paste this giant list in your host file, which is going to block the computer from accessing these certain sites, and it doesn't work anymore. Microsoft has circumvented the host file, which tells the operating system how to handle certain URLs. Sure, it's one thing if you want to block, Facebook or Twitter or something, but how dare you try to block Edge from communicating with our servers what you're looking at on Edge? That's crazy. Okay, that's crazy. So ARS Technica back in December of 2015 went back and they turned all those settings off, and they could not figure out what data was going back and forth. They said there's a lot of data going back and forth even though everything is turned off. That for me is a deal breaker, because I do not want my operating system sending data out anywhere. And I looked at some of the servers. Some of them are here in America. Some of them are in crazy countries that are not necessarily friendly to America, and I don't like that. Come on. I don't want that. I do not want my operating system talking outside of my thing. But I have a theory about what's going on. And see this tinfoil hat? This means this is my opinion, all right? My theory about what's going on, I actually think they're taking a copy of your files, even if you don't have a Microsoft account or use OneDrive. I think they're taking a copy of your files and they're putting them on their server, so that when you get a Microsoft account, your files are already there, and they'll be like, you'll have a better user experience. Now, why do I think that? Well, if you remember back when Windows was updating the Windows 7 and the Windows 8 computers with Windows 10, first they gave you the nice little benign pop-up in the bottom of the corner that said, oh, you're reserved Windows 10 today. And most people didn't jump on there right away and go, oh, yeah, I definitely want to do that. No. So then they're like, oh, not enough people are downloading it. We're not going to reach our, what was it, like 5 billion goal? I forget what their goal was. Some billion numbers by some year. I forget what it is. They're like, it looks like we may not reach it. So we have to take alternate measures. And this isn't conspiracy. They admitted this. They started to download the Windows 10 files onto your computer without your consent, without you clicking on the button. And they said the reason is so that when you click the button to upgrade to Windows 10, you will have a better user experience because you will not have to download 3 gigabytes of data right then and there. That's what they said. And then, of course, eventually they made it so when that stupid pop-up showed up, it said, get Windows 10 now, it's available, it's ready to go. And you click the little red X, that installed Windows 10. So they're like, it's the fastest growing operating system. Apple does the same thing. iOS 7 is the fastest growing system. I used that because that's what they were saying back when iOS 7 was being pushed. No, it's not the most important, the most successful operating system ever. It was a train wreck. Look at the forums. Look at how much complaints. Don't force a whole bunch of people onto a system and then brag about how wonderful the system is because of its wonderful adoption rate when you forced all these people on it. What does that have to do with all this data leaking? Well, just like Microsoft downloaded Windows 10 to your computer without your consent, so you have a better user experience, I think they're doing the same thing with your personal files on the cloud. I think they're taking a copy of it, attaching it to your machine ID, putting it up there so that when you get the Microsoft account, you have a great user experience. That's my thought. That's my opinion. That's what I wonder what's going on in the background. Unless somebody can tell me exactly what's going on when I have every setting turned off and 100, 200, 300 lines in my host file, why is my computer still connecting to the outside world and it's not to get updates? If someone else can give me a better plausible explanation, I'm up for discussion on the point. In the meantime, I'm not going to use Windows 10 for anything productive. I'm a web designer. I have to have Windows 10 in the office just to make sure things work. And I'm also a general computer consultant, so I have to know how to work the silly thing. So I got some in the office, although I don't do anything real on it. Oh, Windows 10. Oh, it's a love-hate relationship because I love the format of Windows. But at least with Linux, I can set up a Linux desktop to have the same degree of productivity I was able to get on a Windows desktop, and I gotta say, I am loving the Linux operating system way better than the Windows operating system. It's way more fun, way more customizable, and for those that don't want to do the fun and customizable stuff, it's nice and easy out of the box to just do what you need to do. Oh, this has been Tom with a tinfoil hat time, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.